and you are watching the Mojo Story. The Middle East is teetering on the edge of a wider war. This after the US uh, launched massive airstrikes with its B-2 bombers on Iran's key nuclear sites, three of them, that prompted Tehran to retaliate with missile attacks on Israel. Uh, and now Iran has also unveiled a new multi-warhead ballistic weapon system. So far, hundreds have been killed, including children and women, in this escalating Israel-Iran conflict. And Israel has been targeting military sites in Iran, and even that notorious prison, Evin Prison, has also been struck by Israel. Now, the big question is, will America's intervention lead to a regime change in Iran? Israel wants a regime change. America has been giving mixed signals about that. Sometimes we hear from America that they are not really, their goal is not a regime change in Iran. At other times, we hear that perhaps a regime change is the main objective. To discuss this, we're joined by an eminent panel today. We're joined by Ambassador Dilip Sinha, and we are also joined by Brigadier Sandeep Thapar. Welcome to Mojo Story. If I may ask, start with you, Ambassador Dilip Sinha. We saw that America directly entered into this conflict. Donald Trump had given a time of 2 weeks, but he didn't wait for 2 weeks. But after 2 days, conducted those strikes on the nuclear sites in Iran. Has it essentially changed the rules of engagement in the region? And are we looking at a war which is now spreading fast to other areas as well?
A major escalation of the war. It means the US has joined the war directly and has used weapons that it has never used in the past. The strongest non-nuclear bombs ever invented by human beings. But there are two issues here. Is there a danger of the conflict spreading or conflagrating into the region? I don't see that happening because Iran is quite isolated in this. If you look at the reactions that have come in from the regional powers, the UAE, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, you see that there is no direct condemnation of the US action. In fact, the strongest condemnation has actually come from China, a little bit from Oman, and then surprisingly from the UN Secretary General. But the regional Arab countries have been very circumspect in their comments. The other issue is the issue of regime change, and we can come to that when you come to that issue.
Yes, in fact, what started with attacks by Israel targeting important members of Iran's military, and then America using those bunker buster bombs to destroy those nuclear sites. But Israel has all along been insisting that all of this should lead to a regime change. In fact, Netanyahu directly addressing the people of Iran and saying that we have done our bit, now you do your bit. Brigadier Sandeep ji, I wanted to understand, an external aggression, will it, in that society, will it bring it together, or will those divisions further spread out after this attack intervention by the US striking their nuclear sites? What happens to the society internally? Do you think that there would be an internal sort of a churn that would lead to a regime change in the end?
No, Zafar. On the contrary, it might just be the opposite.
Right.
The Iranians are a very proud race.
Right.
We all know that. And no way is that on external pressure, when there is external enemy, Israel for one, attacking them, that there will be an internal change inside. You see, to get an internal change, there have to be a lot of factors. And definitely subjugating militarily, you are just the patriotic spirit which comes in the people
Yeah.
automatically. They are being
Yeah.
this thing. Unless physically Iran is attacked and forces enter inside like they did it in Iraq, maybe it may be possible. But I do not think that this is going to happen. And uh, I do not think that America is interested in regime change at the moment. All I think America is interested is to make sure that Iran doesn't get the nuclear, uh, it doesn't make a nuclear bomb or it doesn't have nuclear capability. And second, it does not overwhelm Israel in the battle, because you see, Israel has been fighting for 3 years. It's a fatigued army. It's a tired army. Uh, its reserves are running low because it's fighting multiple fronts on the domestic, and the dwindling reserves are dwindling. I believe. I'm not certain. I've heard that they've even approached India for a certain replenishment of
Right.
ammunition. So that is the state, and so America is probably making sure that Israel is not. It's very difficult to militarily defeat Israel by Iran, but it is not overwhelmed with the missile power of Iran. So that is the overthrow is Israel's aim, along with the
Yes.
nuclear capability. It's Israel's aim, and it's openly, Netanyahu has openly said it. So I do not think that this is going to be possible in the if actually they get into that, then we are standing at the tether of World War III. If pushed, if America actually enters into, then I'm sure other countries would also like to get inside. It'll get bigger and more violent.
Right. Ambassador Sinha, you said that Iran has received a lukewarm response so far from its neighboring countries and from other countries. But the fact that Iran has threatened that it will block the Strait of Hormuz, and if that closure happens, then global crisis is possible. The oil prices will escalate. That would rather force other countries to intervene one way or the other to be a part of this conflict. If at the moment they are maintaining a distance, but if that happens, then they will have no choice but to say something, to do something.
Yes, you're quite right. Iran right now is in no position to take on either Israel or the United States. And certainly the
Yeah.
two together are beyond Iran's capabilities. But what Iran can do is block the Hormuz Strait, which is a very simple thing for it. It's right next door to it.
Yeah.
It's a very narrow strait. A few oil tankers can be sunk there and the route will get blocked. If that happens, estimates are that about 20% of the world's oil supply passes through those straits. But the countries that will be affected the most by it will be, I mean, apart from consumers like China and India, will be the Arab Gulf countries. So
Yeah.
their anger will be as much against Israel as against Iran. And they would then be quite keen to have the Americans use their bases there to open up the strait. You see, right now, the
Yeah.
Americans have not used their bases in these Gulf countries. Their attack on Iran came directly from US soil. But once Iran starts harming the interests of the Arab countries in the Gulf, then they will immediately turn to the US for protection, and the US will
Right.
then intervene far more directly. So if the Hormuz Strait is blocked by Iran, there will definitely be an escalation in oil price, which will affect, as I said, major consumer countries like China and India and a host of other countries in the region. But it does not affect the US as much. And even Europe has actually weaned itself away from the Gulf oil. So the impact will be mainly on countries other than the Western countries. But the Gulf
Right.
Arab countries will be very annoyed with Iran, and they will be quite willing to take US help to get the Hormuz Straits opened.
Right. Brigadier Sandeep Thapar, you want to
Muzaffar, I
you
would
want to
like to
comment?
add that
Yeah.
what Ambassador Sinha said, absolutely right. But please understand, Strait of Hormuz, whether he closes or no, it's closed. No ship will carry oil from there. It's a war zone. The insurance of the ships of the oil will be tremendous. Those costs will escalate. So in the war zone, I doubt if any ship will attempt to use the Strait of Hormuz, whether it's closed by Iran officially or no, because there's a war going on. Nobody wants to sink a oil tanker there get involved in an accident. So it may not be officially closed, but I think we will see the traffic reduced to a trickle from that area, even without any official announcement. That's what
So,
I feel as a war expert.
just that Iran saying that the parliament has given a go ahead is enough for the traffic to calm down dramatically. It is not that Iran need to do something, but just because of the safety concerns that route will be avoided. That's what you're saying, sir?
Yeah, exactly. And the insurance cost of the movement will also skyrocket. So it'll be economically hit the prices.
Absolutely. Brigadier Sandeep ji, also the fact that we saw Trump making a very big announcement after those.
I think we lost
Yeah,
Zafar.
it seems.
Yes. Can you hear me,
Yeah,
sir? We seem to have lost
Okay.
the internet
yeah.
briefly, but I was just asking that Trump made that big announcement that it was the U.S. military that could do it. It's the world's most powerful military, and then they did that strike with precision. And then Netanyahu said that it's also a fight of civilizations and all that, and he thanked Trump and America. But do you view this US attack on nuclear sites as a tactical success or as a strategic gamble? Because Trump said that this is all that we are doing and we're stopping here. But if you do anything, we are going to come back, and the next targets are going to be easier for us to strike.
See, I see a certain period of uncertainty. Now, Iran has said that I saw on certain TV channels that 2 3 days before the attack, there were certain about 40 50 vehicles leading up to these sites and certain movement taking
Yeah.
place outside.
Yeah.
So obviously, any country would do that with a threat of imminent attack on it. It would have moved this fissile material and other stores outside. So I am not sure how much damage they've caused. The U.S. strikes have caused. Though, if you see those 3 holes which they've made
Yes.
on the
Yes.
sites, it's very scary. If I was serving today, I would be very scared with this capability. We can come from thousands of kilometers away and strike with pinpoint accuracy. How much damage they've caused, post-strike damage assessment will take a little time. Now, it will all depend on what was the aim the of Trump and what further. Now, suppose Iran says no, nothing has been done, then it becomes
Yeah.
incumbent on Trump to strike again. But if Iran plays it strategically, says okay, some damage we've been pushed back by 5 10 years, and okay, we are ready to do some talks because Iran knows for certain that it cannot fight USA directly. It's suicidal. USA will finish it off in about 15 to 20 days. With Israel, it can. Though even that fight is uneven, it still can hold its own for a certain amount of time. But US it can't. So it may the one of the options that Iran may have is to come up and say, okay, we're ready for talks. We forego our nuclear thing for a time. They may not do it for the time being. They may say, okay, we'll put it ahead. We'll come back to NPT and we'll talk with you and inspections and all that. Because definitely, even if though fissile material has been hit or damaged, definitely the structure has been damaged, which has put back Iran by 4 5 years. It will take that much time to rebuild that infrastructure. So, certain amount of damage has been done. Now, as I see, what happens next is what Iran does. If Iran keeps quiet and only targets Israel as a retaliation, then maybe America may not get inside again. But if Iran decides to escalate and target the American forces in the Middle East, then I'm afraid Trump will definitely step in a larger way, and we may be staring at almost at the we may be standing at the tethers of a World War III. Though right now I know Russia and China have condemned, but they've not
Yeah.
officially. I mean, they've not made big noises because Russia is fully involved in its own
Yeah.
Ukraine war, and China has got its own issues. On the other hand, even the West Asian, you mentioned some of them have spoken, the others haven't. So the world is a little uncertain. They are all waiting to see how this, which side this goes. So as I see, it all depends on what next couple of days Iran does.
And Ambassador Sinha, what could be the possible diplomatic options for Iran? I was hearing their foreign minister said that till the time the aggression stops, they cannot enter into talks and dialogue. And at the same time, they're sending these missiles to Israel, threatening that they will block this vital link from where these ships pass. What are possible diplomatic options? They ask for a UN meeting on that. All of that has been done, but what can they do from here? Because
Well, there are options.
they're saving the regime. They're saving the regime. At the same time, they cannot they cannot say, as Trump says, that it has to be a total surrender. They cannot say, okay, we surrendered, because that will be a loss of face. If they do this, then the regime also goes, because people will say, what sort of a regime you are, you just surrendered. So their options are very narrow. They have to walk a very tightrope walk. It has to be for Iran. What do they do?
Well, their options are very limited. They are not in a
Yeah.
position to solve the crisis militarily. They cannot defeat Israel, let alone the US. Uh, they have a few diplomatic options, but as you rightly said, that will involve loss of face, which the Ali Khamenei regime cannot afford. Unfortunately, all the three leaders involved, Netanyahu, Ali Khamenei, and Trump, are essentially warmongers. They take very strong positions. They lack diplomatic maturity, sagacity to be able to resolve these issues diplomatically.
Yeah.
Trump is gloating over his success. Netanyahu, in any case, wants to pursue the war, because the moment the war stops, his position will be in danger. Khamenei also, since he's practically lost the war, he cannot afford to now throw his weapons and say, I surrender. So in
Yeah.
this situation, what I see is that there's a lot of resilience in Iran. As the brigadier said, it's a very proud country, so it will continue fighting. So what I see is a prolonged conflict, but a conflict confined to Iran, just the way the Israel-Gaza conflict has so far been confined to Gaza. No Arab country has intervened in favor of Gaza so far.
Yeah.
Similarly, no country will intervene in favor of Iran. Certainly, China and Russia will not intervene. So Iran will continue its war. It will cause more suffering to its own people. But unless some wisdom dawns on one of the three people that I've just mentioned, I don't see this conflict coming to an early resolution. Nor do I see it conflagrating into a regional conflict.
And what about Khamenei? Trump said that we know where he is, but he's safe. We are not hitting him. But there are many options for Israel, for America. They have eliminated many top military commanders, the nuclear scientists, but they have not touched Khamenei yet. Perhaps they have that capability. They know the location, but that is also another possibility, which they have not done so far. It's a very, very fragile situation here. He has already named his successors. It is not like Iraq, where there was just one Saddam Hussein. It's a sort of it's a regime. It's spread out. He has named his successors. Do you think that those options are also being looked at by both the sides? That could also happen.
Is that to me or to the brigadier?
Yeah, to you, sir.
Well, regime change is very difficult to predict. Uh, when a foreign invasion takes place, you can look at history and you find both kinds of examples. There are situations where the people do rise and the government is overthrown, and there are situations where the government gets strengthened because the people are forced to back it, with the result that the country survives, the regime survives for a very long period of time. So both situations are possible. It's impossible to predict at the present moment. What one can say is that certainly the regime is extremely repressive in Iran. It is not very popular. Exactly how popular or unpopular it is difficult to guess. But given the current situation, the people have no choice but to rally behind the regime, which will eventually strengthen the regime. So if America and Israel feel that they want to bring about regime change, then certainly the policy that they are following right now is not the path that will take them to regime change in Iran.
And Zafar, what we've seen
Yes.
is our regime change operations which America or West have done in the recent past, whether it's Iraq, whether it's Libya, whether it's Syria, they have not worked in the manner they are expected to. So there is no, and what the ambassador said, you remove this guy. How do you know the second in command is not equally bad or equally rigid and this thing? So that won't help in any way.
And when there was this toppling of Saddam Hussein, that entire country slipped into anarchy for a long time. Iran is a bigger country with a larger area. It could be a bigger, much worse problem for the entire region, for America, for Israel, because the country is integrated right now. But if there is that regime change operation or anything like that done, then perhaps the things will be just out of hand. Brigadier Saab?
Absolutely, absolutely. We've seen that in Iraq. The start of ISIS and the whole setup, which we traveled the entire, which infiltrated into entire the West Asian conflicts. It made that much more difficult for peace to return to these areas. So Iran is equally. Should you try attempt that? It may just happen. And as you said, it's the biggest country in that region. It's bigger than Iraq at least. So and the fact that they're Shias, so there's the natural affinity is not there with certain other Arabs or Sunnis. So that is also a factor which will happen. But I don't think that when you physically remove the top man, whatever he may be, that you can bring back peace. And it has to be a internal movement which has to come from within. It cannot be imposed from outside.
And there has to be that evolution, but that evolution takes time. Ambassador Saab, is diplomacy still an option? Can it pull Middle East back from the war? That's what we are saying, the question that we are raising. Or now there's no scope for diplomacy at all, because there are extreme positions that have been taken by all the parties. How can there be any negotiation, any meeting point? Because that has not worked so far. Trump said that he'll give two weeks, and after 2 days, the attack happened. Iran did not step back. It shot 30 missiles into Israel. Israel has been targeting Iranian military installation, killing generals. It is not ending. What is the scope of diplomacy in all of this? Is there any?
Well, the solution can only come diplomatically. Militarily, there is no solution. Russia has been trying to solve the Ukraine problem for the last, I don't know how many, 2 years, 3 years. Israel is trying to solve the Gaza problem. Militarily, you can achieve some specified targets if that is given to the military. But solving a problem like a national problem, the kind of problem that Iran presents as a threat to the region or as in terms of peace and security, can only come diplomatically. But I don't see that happening, because all the three regimes that you're talking about, whether it's the US regime, Trump is facing internal problems, Netanyahu is facing internal problems, and Mr. Khamenei is also facing internal problems. So they are all trying to consolidate their position internally to be able to stabilize their own positions rather than worry about global peace and security.
Right.
So one of them has the diplomatic or the statesman-like ability that is required in difficult situations like the Middle East. The Middle East is not a peaceful area. It's always been a very difficult area. Iran has always been a disturbed country. But it requires a lot of statesmanship to to be able to solve problems like this. And I don't think that is present in the three leaders that I'm talking about. Right?
Right.
Definitely.
Brigadier Sahab, I was just wondering, where 3 years ago when this war started, we were only focused on Gaza. Then we spoke about we were focused on Hezbollah, that pager attacks have been carried out. Then that is also gone. Now there's Iran. What happens to the other conflicts that are still there? Lebanon, Gaza, West Bank, those things are also there, but nobody talking about them. The entire focus is what happens to Iran, where is America? But what about the things that actually led in the build up to this major war between Iran and Israel? What about those elements?
No, Zafar, I think Israel went sequentially, it went properly. First is sorted out the Hamas. Then, when Lebanon and Hezbollah and Houthis interfered, Houthis had left to Americans to sort out. Houthis are not fully finished, but Hezbollah,
Yeah.
it definitely targeted it and sorted it out fairly well. So, for the moment, Hamas and Hezbollah are subdued. I'm not finished, but they're subdued enough. It's only then when Israel was confident that now these people cannot present a bigger, very big threat, that it thought that it was an opportune moment to take on Iran, because Iran was the backbone of these elements. So might as well kill two stones with a kill one bird with two birds with a stone. That
Yeah. Yeah.
whatever the proverb is, I not coming to mind. So it
Killing
went
two birds with
after
one
Iran.
stone. Yeah.
Yeah, so it went after Iran, and I am not sure whether it was a good step, because, like I've been saying in a lot of other channels, that Iran is not Hamas, Iran is not Lebanon, Iran is not Syria. Iran is a fairly big nation. It has 6 lakhs armed forces, very strong. It may not be as uh, uh, militarily strong as Israel, but it's fairly. See, there is no land frontier to be fought. They're 1,300 kilometers from each other. It's just the air element, whether air force or missiles. Uh, Israel has the strongest air force beyond the 3 superpowers. In the world, it has the best equipment and best capability. Compared to that, Iran is nothing. So Iran, on the contrary, Iran, on the other side, Iran has missiles and plenty of them, 2,000 stock. You've got to realize that Israel, like I brought out earlier, is a fatigued army. It's been fighting for 3 years. Its equipment and ammunition are also on a low at this moment. So I don't know whether it's a good decision to go after Iran, but if America does not interfere too much beyond what is done, this will continue for some 1 or 2 months before international pressure or diplomacy, as the ambassador said, diplomatic initiatives put a full stop to it. But it is not
Right.
finishing with the defeat of Iran. Iran is not going to get defeated. Countries like Iran, this big countries don't get defeated. Probably there's a ceasefire, all right, and left to them, they'll develop their capability in another couple of years. But you can't run over a nation like you can't even run over a nation like Ukraine, which is a huge nation,
Yeah.
but it was nothing compared to Russia. It's been fighting Russia for the past 3.5 years,
Yeah.
with whatever little capabilities it had.
Yeah. It's easier to start a war, but nobody knows when those
When to end
wars
it.
will end and how those wars will end. But very s- uh, interesting times, and not just for that region, but for the entire world, to see what those developments are taking place there, because those will bear an impact for all the countries, India as well. Thanks so much, Brigadier Sandeep, Ambassador Dilip Sinha ji, for joining us today and for sharing your thoughts. And thanks to our viewers for watching the
Thank
video
you.
story.
Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work.